one-party rule. Raila did not oppose the fight for multi-party democracy, shattering the chains of one-party rule. Raila did not just oppose dictatorship. He walked through straight into its jaws, detention without trial, torture, isolation, and we have heard Kiraito talk about that, years stolen, yet his spirit remained unbroken. He rose to confront a system that insisted Kenya would remain a one-party state. And because he and fellow patriots refused to bow, Kenya reclaimed the right to speak, to organize, to challenge power. That victory opened the floodgates of activism in this country, political competition, and civic freedom. Without that fight, without those sacrifices, many of us would not even be standing here today. Then the second one is the 2010 Constitution, a people's shield, born of struggle. Raila will be remembered as one of the fiercest warriors behind the 2010 Constitution. Remember, there was the 2005, and that's how Orange Party was born, through orange and banana. You build a party through fruits, through something called orange, a referendum called orange and banana, but here we are. So what do I want to say about the 2010 Constitution? A defining human rights milestone. This Constitution gave us a justiciable Bill of Rights, independent institutions to check excesses, never mind that they are being abused. But the Chapter 15 institutions are what we must anchor and hold on to help us check the excesses of our state leaders, whoever they are. Protection of marginalized groups and devolution, power returning to the people. It was not a gift from the state. I think a lot of leaders, political leaders, think it's a gift for us to have a constitution or for us to have human rights. It was won through blood, tears, and resilience. And Raila was at the forefront. Today, the Constitution remains our most powerful tool against injustice, the sword and shield of every defender. My number 3 is the fight against electoral injustice. The 2017 election nullification history will not forget this. When Raila contested the 2017 presidential results, it was not merely a personal fight. I know I'm on time, but I'm being chased on time, but I just want to give one very short sentence. Just when the ruling happened, I was working for Greenpeace Africa, and I was going to a country I had never been to called Kazakhstan. I could not even pronounce it for the longest time as I was telling people this is where I'm going. And I was on the flight now, from the connecting flight now to Kazakhstan itself, and somebody sitting next to me asked me which country, oh, hello, how are you? Which country are you from? Those who travel, you know, there are people who like to talk a lot on the plane when you really want to sleep and keep quiet. And I just said, I'm from Kenya. This guy was a BBC journalist. If the plane is moving, he stood up and he said, congratulations, your nation has done something that has never been done. That was because of this win, which I'm just about to talk about, which I'm going to talk about now. The fight for the nullification of the election was not just Raila's fight. It was a fight for the sanctification of the Kenyan vote. Then came the earthquake. The Supreme Court nullified a presidential election. First time ever, not just in Kenya, in Africa. It sent a message across the continent. People's power is not negotiable. Sometimes we forget these little important things. We may not have won because it didn't go for the runoff, but the statement, people's power is not negotiable. You can try to steal it, but never mind how long it takes, we are going to get it back. Elections must reflect the will of the people. Institutions must obey the Constitution. That moment awakened a new consciousness that no injustice is too big to confront. Connecting his journey with ours, so now you've had somebody in a land called Kazakhstan is already congratulating me about a win. I was not even living in Kenya at that time. I was in South Africa. So I hadn't even voted in the 2017 election. But it was taken as if, wow, this is a global win for democracy for Africa. So connecting his journey with ours, and let me say this from my heart, as a human rights defender myself, I not only acknowledge, recognize, and appreciate Raila's sacrifices, I understand them. Because this work, this calling, it's not for the faint-hearted. Those of you who are here know who are human rights defenders. It demands courage, it demands endurance, it demands the willingness to stand alone when truth becomes dangerous. This journey is a relay, not a solo race. Each of us carries the torch for a moment in history. Raila carried his with fire, with courage, with defiance. And today we carry ours strengthened by the path he carved. Somebody talked about his boots, his footsteps. Even if yours are little, step into those because there are already footsteps there and you have been shown the direction. His endurance opened space for activism. His sacrifices paved a way for a freer Kenya. The legacy Raila Odinga, the enigma, will forever be remembered. Tearing down one-party dictatorship, championing for the 2010 Constitution, defending the electoral will of the people. This is not a small legacy. This is not a normal life. This is not a normal life. This is the footprint of a man whose story is inseparable from Kenya's struggle for freedom. And as we honor him, let us recommit loudly, boldly, fearlessly to the work ahead. There's so much work ahead, not just for the young people, for all of us as Kenyans. Human rights are never granted. They are won, they are defended, they are protected. Every single day, Raila played his part. We must play ours. And I'm not a poet, but there are 4 lines I have to say. For if freedom is fire, then every generation must bring its flame. And Raila's torch has lit the path. And now it's our turn to burn, our turn to rise, our turn to defend the dream.
Jerry, I love you too. Just channeling that poetry, and we are getting Professor Gumbe to the stage to be a giant, to do giant things, to take giant steps to move the world forward. I will not give you his bio because we are going to limit his time a lot.
Thank you very much. I think you've done a lot of injustice to me. I came here prepared with 17 pages to celebrate Raila Odinga, and now I have to compress it in a few minutes. Okay, my earliest memories of Raila Odinga is when I was about 10 years old. My parents and his parents had been neighbors in Kaloleni, Kisumu. And by that time, we had moved to Milimani, Kisumu. It was after independence, and I knew his younger siblings. And they would always talk about their 2 brothers, one called Oburu and one called Aluo, who were in Europe, whom I'd never met. So when I was 10 years old, I think he must have been on holiday. I caught a glimpse of him. And his 2 sisters, Akinyi and Beryl Achieng, said, that is Raila. Those were my favorite people at that time, because Beryl taught me how to dance soul. You know soul music? Shaking your head. And Akinyi was the polite disciplinarian one. So I then encountered him for the first time, talked to him for the first time when I was a student at the University of Nairobi. I was studying engineering, and he had been a lecturer in that faculty. So we talked about engineering issues with him, and we talked about politics. And we talked about politics and agreed that the very minimum we wanted in Kenya was to introduce social democracy. So in October, I was in my house in Kisumu because I was tired. The day before, I'd been in Siaya organizing for a stand of the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency because there was going to be the Siaya International Trade and Industry Conference. And on the Friday, Raila was supposed to be in a forum with me to popularize nuclear power. Since my student days, we had talked about introducing nuclear power in Kenya. And I was very pleased to have been appointed this year to be the chairman of the board of the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency. And I was waiting for him to come there and we talked to people about nuclear power. I got a telephone call very early in the morning that he had passed on. And it didn't register. In fact, even now, it has not quite registered that he has passed on. But if he has gone, who was Raila? What was Raila? What was his life? What was his contribution? What is his influence? Karl Marx says, men make their own history, but they do not make it just as they please. They do not make it under circumstances chosen by themselves, but under circumstances directly found and given and transmitted from the past. Raila Odinga made history in circumstances defined by history and geography. But great people, those are by circumstances whose boundaries are defined by history and geography. But the great people are those who push the boundaries of history and geography. And I'm convinced Raila Odinga was one of them. I was supposed to come here and talk about Raila and the Constitution, but what was the Constitution of Kenya? What's the context? The political struggles in Kenya started in the 1920s. The Kavirando Taxpayers Association of Ezekiel Apindi were there. Then the Kikuyu Central Association came in of Harry Thuku and others. And they were agitating for more rights. You remember where now the Central Police Station is? When there was a strike and there was a lady called Mary Nanjiru, she said, men, give me trousers if you are cowards. And that was Raila Odinga. If you are cowards, give me something. So the struggles went on, but the real political party in Kenya was formed in 1944. It was called the Kenya African Union. Jomo Kenyatta came back from Britain in 1946, and he joined Kenya African Union, which was a fairly progressive party, because in the late 40s, it got help from people like Makan Singh, who were in the trade union movement, Chege Kibasha and others. But you know, by 1952, the agitation for rights, the agitation turned into the Mau Mau struggles of 1952. And that changed the dynamics of Kenya. And that changed the position where I was born. My father, my eldest sister was born in Nairobi. But me and my elder brother and me were born in Kisumu. Simply because at the outbreak of Mau Mau, my father was arrested, and therefore he had to relocate to Kisumu. Otherwise, I would have been a Nairobi-born person. By the mid-1950s, the British were now decolonizing Kenya. They were co-opting a new class of Kenyan Africans who would be a buffer between the Africans, masses, and themselves. So they had the Swedenborg plan, which was to create some rural aristocracy of peasantry, and then they got some Africans into Lejiko. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga being possibly the most progressive of the lot. But then, after some time, there were struggles in it. A brilliant young trade unionist called Tom Mboya also joined Lejiko, and by the early 1960s, the Kenyans were taken to a place where they went to negotiate freedom, or they went to negotiate away our freedom. I don't know which is true. Odurong when? Did they negotiate us away, or did they negotiate freedom? It's called Land. Kenyatta became our president. But the most significant thing is that KADU dissolved itself and joined KANU. And the right-wingers in KADU went to reinforce the right wing of KANU. And there was a very bitter struggle. And the first casualty of this struggle was Pioga Makinto, who was shot dead here in Westlands in February 1962. In 1966, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was forced out by the right wing headed by Tom Mboya in Limuru conference. Jaramogi did not take it lying down. He went and formed a left-wing political party called KPU, Kenya People's Union. I think it is, until recent times, it was the only political party which was openly advocating for socialism. Right now, we even have a few communist parties. But that struggle was carried out at a time when KANU, and now KANU reinforced with KADU, mutilated the constitution. They removed the little evolution that there was. They removed Senate. They removed many things which were happening in the country. And it went on until towards the end, KANU centralized education. Julius Okara, strong to serve. You know that when I went to school, the schools were owned by the county councils. Education was more or less devolved, but it was centralized later. So, now let's go to 1969, when the political party in Kenya more or less died. Tom Mboya was shot dead on the 5th of July in Nairobi. The further incident was that Kenyatta came to Kisumu, and I was one of the small students who went to welcome and sing for the president. And when some chaos broke out, our headmistress, Mrs. Tejpa, took us into the middle of Kisumu because there was shooting going on. There's a young boy from my school called Alnud Daya. His father, Abdul Daya, was the deputy mayor of Kisumu. He was shot dead about 400 meters away from where people were fighting. And John, who was a servant of our neighbor, was shot dead at Jubilee Market about 4 kilometers from there. After this incident, Jaramogi was detained, KPU was banned, and therefore Kenya entered a period of one-party de jure rule, which went on until 1982, when KANU declared denouncing the was detained. He remained there for 8 years. Many things happened in the world. By 1989, the Eastern Bloc was collapsing and multipartyism was coming. So finally, Raila was released and he came out and struggled very hard for multi-party democracy through Ford and other political parties. Multipartyism finally came in 1991, December 1991. We got the 1992 elections, and Moi, with less than 30% of the votes, was elected president. Another significant thing which happened is in 1994, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga died, and there was civil war in Fort Kenya, and Raila rose to prominence, and finally left Fort Kenya, went to the National Development Party, resigned from the party. He did not support one party as they are doing now, while still in another party. He kept good hygiene. He resigned from Ford Kenya, joined National Development Party, won his seat in Langata, and then went and formed some cooperation and alliance with Daniel Moi. Then we started agitating proper for a new constitution. We had always wanted one, even with multipartyism. It didn't come. But the country went NCC and other people. We agitated until the champion of multi-party of a new constitution was Raila Odinga. So after the elections of 1997, the cooperation period, parliamentaries, this select committee, PSC, the one Raila chaired, was formed for the constitutional review. The Constitution of Kenya Review Commission was formed. Yashpal Gai was hired, and Bomas started when Moi was still in government. But what did Moi do? He rubbished the whole process. So it became a campaign item for the National Rainbow Coalition. The National Rainbow Coalition was formed after an MOU between LDP and NAK. Raila was the driver of that MOU. What happened that morning, I was part of a team which had negotiated an MOU with Simeon Nyachai's party, Ford people, and Okara's party there. We signed an MOU in the morning in Serena. Then, after signing the MOU, we went upstairs and negotiated with Mwai Kibaki and company, and we walked to an LDP rally in Uhuru Park. And that is when Raila said, Kibaki, tosha. And everything changed. And he campaigned very hard with Kibaki all over. And then Kibaki got the accident. I was in Mwenge House when it happened. But what did Raila say? The captain is there, is down. We continue with the struggle. And he campaigned very hard until we won the elections. Convincingly, I think 63% of the votes. Huh? And most MPs were National Rainbow Coalition. Then political immorality entered this. I'll finish in 5 minutes. Huh? No, 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes. An MOU which was negotiated and signed in public was denounced by Mwai Kibaki's side. They said it didn't exist. What we had agreed about, the Bomas process started in the new constitution. But then, and I was at Bomas when we were chased away, and then Kivuitu announced. I was with those guys sitting there. You remember that day? The police came, chased us away, then they announced the results. KICC, we are KICC. Then, what happened that time? The country exploded. And that is when CMD became important. I was the chair of CMD, and Jerika Beberi was our executive director. We said, this is our country. We will not let it burn. So we were the first people actually to reach out. And even when Kofi Annan came to Kenya, we were the ones who received him. The first meeting we called of political parties to discuss this issue was almost a riot. They were in two camps and they almost killed each other. But when we called the second, third, fourth, fifth meeting, now they calmed down. Until when we went to other places, they calmed down. And things were solved. And as a consequence of that, of the government formed after that, Kenya achieved its highest growth to date in terms of the economy. But we also got the 2010 Constitution. The 2010 Constitution was very good, but it had a few things that I didn't like myself. First, the presidential system. Presidential system is a very imperial system. You see it in Nairobi, but its worst manifestation is in counties. It is something we must think about. The other one is the electoral system. This first part, the post in constituencies which are not demarcated, wastes votes, and it creates persons who use a lot of money to campaign on geographical basis, insulting people from the other side and so on. So I think we should adopt the proportional representation. That is why I very enthusiastically embraced the BBI process. And we were with it with the ED here, Odurongwen, and the ODM proposals to BBI were very good. That we have proportional representation. We talked about policing. Policing should be devolved. There's no need of keeping it central, because you are the ones who know the witches and the thieves in the villages. Education, majorly, should be devolved. Proportional representation is the easiest way in which you can put women and other disadvantaged groups inside there, and many other things, which I was going to tell you. But I have been curtailed, so I'm going to end there by saying Raila Odinga was arguably the most consequential opposition figure in modern Kenyan history, a politician who shaped the country's democratic landscape and popularized the language of devolution and equity in governance. Raila stood as a living metaphor for Kenya's struggle against centralized autocracy, having been detained, exiled, and vilified, yet never silenced. Despite never capturing the presidency, after 5 attempts, he remained the loudest voice on equitable governance, decentralization, and inclusion. And inclusion, when Raila was given a chance recently to nominate people to the cabinet, he nominated Oparanya from Western, Joho from the coast, Mbadi, Suba from the south, Wandai from whatever. He would do things like that. Beatrice Askuli is my girl, yes. From Turkana and other places. When, soon after that, somebody else was given a chance, where did they all come from? Mount Kenya. Now, Raila championed the transformation of Africa through infrastructure development and industrialization. This, he said, will liberate the masses from hunger, disease, unemployment, and backwardness. Raila's style of politics embraced populistic mobilization. He employed political pragmatism with a willingness to form strategic coalitions across ideological divides to achieve systemic reforms. I am sure that history will judge Raila Odinga kindly. The struggle continues.
Thank you very much, Prof. I didn't know the way, engineering discipline works. In communication, the abstract usually is like 150 words. But now, when we get into your field, I cannot understand. So I yielded, that's why we yielded as much time to you. And also I happen to know the contribution that you made, and I was very, very hesitant. I was very, very hesitant to cut you short. I hope that the paper that you prepared will be made available so that it can also be accessed. Then we can have the full benefit of what you wanted to say, context and everything. I don't want to rush people, but there are so many voices in the room that we want to be able to get here. That day, you know, when the Rift Valley, the Great Rift Lodge decided that, you know, we'll go with the presidency, Raila was disappointed, and so were some of us who were. But I was with him at Parkland Sports Club, and that's the day he was teaching me how to drink whiskey. But that's a story for another day. I'm going to invite, I'm going to invite Beth Siengo, whom I know from another life before. But she's the chair of the ODM Women's League and the vice chair of CMD. And the reason she's coming is because there are things that Raila did, and you know, like he would be so far ahead of those of us who are in the campaign for equal rights, feminism, women's voices. So I just want her to come and give her testimony.
I had a lot of interest in politics, and I was following everything happening in the country. And one day, Baba said, women's rights are human rights. I'm a widow, had gone through a lot. And that statement made me think, in this country, there could be somebody who recognizes human rights. Women's rights are human rights. I started following everything Baba said and anything that he did, and got more interested in politics. When I decided to run for Mwingi parliamentary seat against Kalonzo Musyoka, my first call to everybody was women have rights as well as men. Before you as a nominated senator today by Orange Democratic Movement, but more importantly, countless Raila Amolo Odinga believed in women. Within ODM, there exists a powerful and fight or win the ODM Women League. I am deeply a position that grants me the privilege of representing women at ODM Central Committee and every other governing organ of the party. Baba's early sacrifices opened political spaces for women. We know Baba is known to have stood by all women political leaders and women who have been given space either by election or by nomination. Baba stood by them. Countless women. Honorable Charity Ngilu, who comes from my county, the late Phoebe Asio, and others, Mother Karua, countless women, Baba have stood with them, defended them, and included them in every position where possible. Baba brought the new constitution that talks about the 2/3 gender rule. Very important. If it were not for that push to have a new constitution, We may not have positions of nomination where I stand today as a nominated senator, and others at different levels, from the county assemblies to the National Assembly to the Senate, women getting chance because Baba fought for new constitution which talks and defends women's rights and women inclusion. Baba walked the talk, opening doors for women leaders. I will not say much because of time, but Baba has been the very first one, I would say, you know, the very first presidential candidate to nominate a woman and accept to have a woman running mate, Honorable Mother Karua. If it were not for Baba to show the way, women would take longer to get to senior and leadership positions in this nation. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say Baba's philosophy on inclusion is justice. Women could be left out, not only on elective positions, but also on appointive positions. I would say, like Professor Larry, I had also prepared a long speech. Our duty is to defend. Our duty is to defend the 2/3 gender rule, women's seats in leadership, women's rights in law, policy, and practice, and the political space Baba fought for. So hard, we must expand it. Let us finish the work he started. Let us build the Kenya he envisioned. A Kenya where a girl's dreams are not limited by her gender. A Kenya where women lead at easy and sit at decision-making table. A Kenya where equality is not negotiated, but guaranteed. In closing, I'll say this. In Kenya, we must know that women and men are equal and can lead. Honorable Winnie, apart from being a political leader and a politician, I'm also a preacher. I would call myself also a seer. You carry the spirit of Baba Raila Molondinga. Your gender will not limit you. Stand firm. Finally, I would say this. Baba believed in the leadership of women from all walks of life. Women who sit at boardrooms. Women who are educated. Women who are exposed, but also on grassroots women. Women from the village. Women who have not gone to school. Women who are mobilizers. Women who may not speak very refined English, but women are women. Women's rights are human rights. Long live the legacy of Baba Raila Molondinga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Senator. And you know, the Honorable Senator is one of, you know, she's just, she's a living example of the things that she's just spoken about. I will not take a very long time doing the introduction. I am now almost on, wanasema dakika za lala salama. Oduor Ongwen is the ideological shadow of Baba. I know that because I read his book in manuscript. It's called Stronger Than Faith. I didn't know he has written another book, which I just bought yesterday, so I will not tell you about it. But he is sort of going to be the person who speaks at this moment now. I will also request him, because I see there are party leaders in the room. I don't want them to sort of lose their mojo for what they had brought us today. So I'm going to request Oduor Ongwen, almost honorable, but you know, executive director of ODM, to please come, and if you can do this in 7 minutes, we'll be very grateful. Karibisha Oduor Ongwen, please.
I don't know whether I should do them in 7 Masai minutes or 7 Wazungu minutes. Because 7 minutes to talk about Baba is really a challenge. Viva Baba, viva! Viva Baba, viva! I'm not going to go into honorifics, and I want to disappoint you, because I'm not going to talk about what I was asked to talk about. You know, it's like this story they say of a person who went, these blind people who went to see an elephant. So if you want me to just talk about party leadership and ODM party, I would be like that person who touched the tail of the elephant. And then say an elephant is like a string or a rope. So I decided to set my own exam, and I know I'll fail it. So I've titled my talk, Odinga's Legacy in Defending the Right to Freedom of Association and Political Party Building, because I didn't want to turn this into an ODM affair. So I know you'll excuse me. Secondly, I had intended to read this, but because of time, I'm not going to do the reading of the paper. This paper will be available. I want to talk about Raila Odinga in fighting for freedom of assembly and building the parties. And Raila was driven by this advice from somebody called Vladimir Lenin. And he said, you cannot have a revolution without a revolutionary party driven by the most advanced revolutionary theory. So you will see in Raila's entire life, it's been about building political organization, building political movement, and making sure that we change the country not by exhibition of personal heroism, but working within an organized community. So some people might have said, Raila hops from one party to the other and so on. It's because he believed you cannot change a nation outside an organization. The second thing I want to say about Raila, many people said Raila was born of privilege. By the way, Raila was never in this country when his father was vice president. Because his father was vice president for only 1 year and 3 months. And that time he was studying abroad in East Germany. So if you say this man was raised up in privilege, you are wrong. The other thing I want to talk about Raila is that he didn't start organizing political movement when he became mature to look for presidency or to look for MP position. At the age of between 20 and 25, when he was in East Germany, when Kadu had been collapsed, like my friend Larry has said, and the country was creeping back to authoritarianism, now not by colonialists, but by the new leaders we had put in power. That is when patriotic Kenyans like Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Bildad Kagia, and others decided we must defend this space. And they formed the political party, KPU. Raila, out of his own initiative, that time he was in the leadership of All Africa Student Union, ASU, which about 20 years later, I was privileged also to serve when I was in the leadership of SONU. It's during that time that you became politically engaged. First, not in Kenya, but globally, because he linked up. Although he was in East Germany, he linked up with those who were struggling in the US, the civil rights movement, which are the likes of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and Stokes Carmichael, and others, Miriam Makeba, you can name them. It was also during that time that he decided that he's going to help organize the structures of KPU in Europe. If it was today, he would be called Gen Z. I don't know they were Gen what, but, because he was just around 20. He was not yet 25. So that is where you first trace the involvement of Raila Odinga in organizing political movement. And I want to tell you of something he was involved in at that time, which might sound like in Kenya today. KPU had come out with a manifesto called Azimio la Mwananchi. The English version was called Mwananchi Declaration. Then no printer would touch it here in Kenya. And you know, that time, very few Africans owned printing press. So they went to print the KPU manifesto in London. So Raila had to move from Berlin to London, where the manifesto was organized, was printed, and now how to bring it back to the country. So the way it was packaged, it was costing more than 50 kilograms. And you know the airlines, you can't go beyond 23 kg. So he was asked to pay for the excess. And being a student, he had no money. So what he did was to call somebody who knew Jaramogi, somebody in Germany. He had not talked to him before, but he just gave the airline his number to tell them, this man is going to receive the cargo and he will pay for it. So the airline called, and fortunately the fellow agreed that just bring those things, I'll pay. So that is how the copies of the manifesto left London to Berlin. From Berlin, Raila had to send these copies of the manifesto to Cairo, where there were people like Wera Olonde and Wera Ambido, the father to this girl who runs Infotrak. No, the uncle. Now, from Cairo, they were sent to Entebbe. So it's now from Entebbe that they had to be brought, not by the normal channels, but you know where Entebbe is and where Kisumu is. That is how KPU manifesto arrived in the country. That was Raila engaging in building political movement and political party. Then in 1969, as you know, after what happened in Kisumu, KPU was proscribed. Jaramogi and the entire KPU leadership was, after the entire KPU leadership was thrown into detention without trial. By that time, Raila had got an admission to go and do his PhD in the US. But because of what happened, he decided he's going to be with the mother and the siblings. So he forwent that opportunity to go and pursue his PhD. But it was also during that time, because now, although Kenya was still, by law, we were still a multi-party democracy, but you couldn't organize openly. So that is when the underground work began. There's a movement called December 12th movement. And one day when the story is properly written, my friend Jerry will tell you some of the things we did during those days. So Raila got engaged with other people, progressives, wakina Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Maina wa Kinyati, Adhua Witi. I don't want to name all of them. And that is when, because you couldn't call a political rally, you couldn't organize openly, the underground press started. And because I'm giving only 7 Wakamba minutes, I want to rush. First, they had to use the office of, they had to use the office of the late Otieno Ambala to print pamphlets at night and distribute them. But when now the relationship with Ambala deteriorated, because Ambala had a problem with his sister whom we buried last weekend, so he had to shift. So now the offices of the British Airways had to be used. Joe was the local manager of British Airways. So they would wait. After the flight has left and the office is closed, then would go into British Airways office, reproduce the pamphlets and distribute in the country. That is how the underground movement was working. So around that, what was called Chama cha Ukombozi started, an informal underground organization. That is the forum we used when there was by-election in Karachuonyo in 1979 to campaign for Phoebe Asio. It is the forum that was used to campaign for the late Wangondu Karaoke in Nyeri town and others. Other words, even though political parties were not allowed, political work continued. Fast forward, then comes May 1982. Then Jaramogi was invited by his friends from Labour Party to do a lecture tour of UK. And he talked on the role of political parties in Africa. And he said, it is time Africa states embraced multipartyism, because you will stagnate if you continue with one-party dictatorship. And out of that statement, the Standard newspaper, then edited by George Givey, because they wanted to create problems for Jaramogi here, says, Jaramogi says he wants to form a new political party. So now the entire international press, BBC and others went and asked him, it has been reported in Kenya that you want to form a political party. So Jaramogi asked them, what is wrong with that? In fact, we should do exactly that. And that was a signal to some of the people who are in the DTM and CCU, Chama cha Ukombozi. By the time Jaramogi landed here, documents for registration of Kenya African Socialist Alliance were ready. And the process started in earnest, actually, to register a political party. Then on 9th of June that year, the then Attorney General, he was now Minister for Constitutional Affairs, Charles Njonjo, introduced a motion in Parliament to bring in a bill to introduce a clause that made Kenya one-party state by law. By that time, we had already met with Raila, because when these guys was expelled, these Dave Anyona, they were with Makau Mutua and others. Those of us who are working in the underground with the DTM, the leadership said, you must take positions of leadership. And that is how I went into student leadership at that particular time. And so, within the campus, we were a core of 5 people who are helping organize CASA. In that circle were David Murathe, Paddy Onyango, Sia Onyango, and Adongo Gony. So when Njonjo introduced this bill, the 5 of us decided that on behalf of the student community, we are delivering a protest at State House. And you know, State House and university halls, it's not that far. So I was tasked to go and photocopy the documents somewhere around the GPO. And we had told Raila of what we are going to do. So he told George Anyona that we meet at Serena so that we can tell you something. So Anyona got very excited and called the media at Hotel Intercontinental that I have a very big story for you people. He simply wanted to tell them that students want to take a memorandum to State House. So I was here trying to do photocopying, then I hear this commotion at Intercontinental. Anyona was arrested, whisked, and detained. Our meeting didn't take place. Then, of course, it didn't take long. 1st of August, the Kenya Air Force boys did what they did. And I think the rest is history. Because from then on, after they arrested Raila, charged with treason, withdrew the charge because there was no evidence, and detained him, then Kamiti, Shimolatewa, Naivasha, and Manyani became his home. Every time being taken in there, but he never left that path. The whole paper, I'll share it with CMD. You can read it. Thank you.
Somober. You're supposed to answer. Huh? Somober.
Somober.
Yeah. Reading is good. And I'm saying that because I was nodding as Odorongwen was speaking, because about 3/4 of what he's saying is actually in his book, Stronger Than Faith. So if you find it, you find a less rushed version of all those events. And Jerry Kabeberi, of course, is named as a co-conspirator. I don't know if you are safe because of the limitation of statute. I want now to walk into the the exciting territory. And so Frank Walukwe, please come and take over so that you can help us to take care of the more exciting political session. Thank you.
It's not that exciting. I think Kwamchetsi is trying to demarcate these roles. We've all heard the speakers. Weren't they enlightening? They were? Wapi makofi ya wale wameongea? Thank you very much for your experiences and for giving us something to ponder about, the things that we are supposed to do. Democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. That's a saying that I actually heard from the Honorable Raila Odinga himself. And I love the way the Constitution starts. All sovereign power belongs to the people, which can only be exercised either directly or through elected officials, right? Representatives of the people. Kindly allow us, there are a few party leaders in the House. As we finish, I think each of them will take 5 minutes, then we can conclude with a cup of tea, take photos, and give our own stories of how we knew this man called Raila Odinga the Enigma. Let me first allow Bwana Evans Misati, whose docket as the chair of PPLC includes all political parties in Kenya. Aseme jambo, tafadhali. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bwana Waruke. Let me also say one or two words, but allow me to stand on the protocols as observed earlier. My name is Evans Misati. I'm the national chairman of PPLC. Mine will be very, very short because I see people have sat here, they have got tired, and then most of the people have gone. Now, as PPLC, I've seen most of the political parties here, and we have heard the history of how people have served in the past. And as leaders of the political parties, now we have what we call PPLC, which is a statutory body, to ensure that the gains we have done as a country, we embrace it and we move forward. The other day, we were with IEPC, and the IEC and DCIL came there, and we are engaging them on how they conduct themselves during the by-elections or during the general elections. I saw a book here which was capturing a number of injuries and deaths just coming from political violence. We have come of age as a country, and I think given that now we have the statutory Section 38 of the Political Parties Act, which gives us PPLC, Political Parties Liaison Committee, which is a tripartite body. If ODM, UDA, KANU, and Jubilee, they have issues, let us come to the table and address them with the election management body. Because the moment we start saying that as a country, we start blaming each other of goons. So and so goes to the media and say, the goons are disturbing elections. And the other one says the same. If we don't come together and agree on the business of the game, we will be lost together. Finally, let me put a call to the political leaders. If you do not come to the plenary where we make decisions, where we agree the business of the game with the IPC, don't blame anybody, because we have agreed now with the IPC that we'll have to, as a plenary, as political parties, we agree on the rules of the game. So if you don't send a representative who is able to commit the party, do not blame anybody. Because as we move forward, there are so many blame games around. And we'll now engage the election management body on agreeing how to move forward. It has never happened before in Kenya. When we hear about the chamber, the tortures, the Moi time, But now at least the IEG can come to listen to the political parties and agree how we are going to deal with it, which is at least, those are the gains we have done. But unfortunately now we don't have the Raila who used to defend us, because Raila used to be the one to defend almost all the political parties. When he alikuwa na nguruma, at least the election management body inafanya nini? Inanyamaza. Now we don't have him. We have to come forward as the party leaders to agree how we are going to move together as political parties. I don't want to say much, but as we move forward, I have seen something going around the media about the by-elections that have just passed. I saw the Kenya Human Rights report yesterday. It's a worrying trend. But towards 2027, if a mistake has happened, let us all together agree that IPC must do this, not the Prem Games. Asanteni.
Nice and short. Thank you very much, Chair. I heard Winnie Odinga say procedure, pressure, then action. Mulisikia hiyo? Very good. Let me call Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, the Secretary General of Jubilee, aseme jambo. For ruling party.
Sorry. Naona kama kila mtu ameenda, hata mimi karibu niende. Na there is a lot you would have said if we started a little earlier. But I have been very pleased with what I've had. I think ED ODM has spoken on my behalf. Raila supported Jubilee when we were being kulikuwa na mpango mkubwa ya kuhakikisha kwamba tumemalizwa. Yesterday I was told that 100 million shillings had been put aside to ensure that Jubilee is not a party anymore. And if it wasn't for Raila, I would not be standing here. He stood with the Jubilee Party. And even when you were attacked on the 16th of February, I think by goons, he sent people to help us, and he personally came to our office to start with us. Kwa hivyo, kama kuna mambo mengi tunaweza ongea, that is something. I didn't quite understand where you are coming from, PPLC. Because Raila will not sit to listen to people who are ready to steal coolers from him. Lakini, I don't have time. But after the 2022 elections, Raila gathered us in Mombasa. And what he told me, or he told us, I will tell it another time, when there will be time. Thereafter, we were seated at Joff. Again, he told us, it looks like we are about to remove William from State House. And the questions he asked us, and what he told us, again, I'll tell you another time. Then one of us said, but the army can take over. What he did, I'll tell you another time. But long live the spirit of Raila.
I feel like donating another 10 minutes so that we are told this thing now. Ungetuambia at least moja ya mwisho, what he did when he heard that the military will take over. Finally, allow me to invite our last speaker of the day, who is the former chair of CMD Kenya, Honorable Omingo Magara, aseme jambo kisha tufunge. Asante.
Thank you, moderator. I'm Jambo, observed. My name is Omingo Magara. It is very difficult to speak after big and senior, educated, experienced people like Nigeria. Everybody has spoken. But allow me to say one or two things. I served Raila Amolo Odinga as the first national treasurer of ODM. And the reason why I think my resilience today stands out, and the party we built, Odorong, when you were not there then, I think you were somewhere else, the party we built on the foundation of the principles that I believed in, it's still as strong as it is today. How I dream that many parties will be like that we can be able to listen to people's wishes and actualize them. This man, Raila, allow me to say three things about this great man, Raila. Simply said, a Democrat and a Social Democrat for that matter. Wonderful man. Unajua Raila used to listen to people. People were wondering, why is this man so popular? He was speaking to the hearts of the people. Before he go to Kisii, he'll do a scan through and say, what is it that's hurting our people on the other side? When he speaks, you could see euphoria. But some ujamaa ati yako na mashetani. Alikuwa anaingiza watu, yani ile roho yao inachemuka. That's the man we are talking about, Raila Amolo Odinga. A resilient man. Jamaa anatwangwa mpaka anatolewa hata makucha inangolewa katika cell. He never gave up. This man, Raila Amolo Odinga, my friend. This man, Raila, had dreams that he would never set aside. And he lived to actualize most of them. This great man, Raila Amolo Odinga. I see many people, and for sure, somebody said here, those ones who are vilifying Raila are the ones he built, unfortunately. Thankless human beings. They're the ones who are vilifying Raila. Let me say this for all of us who are sitting here today. Nyinyi ndio mlikuwa mnaaja na mambo ya Raila, because we want to listen to every bit everybody said about Raila. Thank you so much. Clap for yourself, those who are sitting here today. Wale wameenda, they are political tourists, I could call them. But most finally, and this is very important, we have heard everything good about this great man. Suba, Churchill. Yes, we have listened to it, and people have recited so emotional about it. It will go all to naught if all of us don't leave that legacy of Raila Amolo Odinga. And when I hear a leader pretentiously shedding crocodile tears and saying, I love this great man, he saved my government. Shamelessly, when he's dead, you can say, yeah, he's the only one who would have beaten me. Even Waima will say, yes, he has given him space to implement, activate, actualize what he believed in. You don't say he's dead now, you can beat everybody. I will say he's passed on, but I'll carry his torch. That tells you we're hypocrites in the real sense. Yes, he has passed on, but there are still young people dead and accounted for today. That's what Raila stood for. People are saying, if he was here, tungesema resist payment of stupid, impossible taxes that cannot make sense. You imagine, friends, Julius, yani, I take empty land that belongs to myself, I take your money and build for you, and I sell that house to you. Surely, how worse can it be more than a car as Abnuasi? Do you know the story of a car as Abnuasi? Abnuasi alipewa sufuria moja kubwa kwenda kupikia. Ikakaa akaletea mwenye sufuria kasufuria kadogo akapokea. Ati sufuria yako imezaa. Do you know the story of Abnuasi? Those ones who old enough. Sasa mwenye sufuria kangoja sufuria irudi, akaambiwa sufuria haijakuja, akaenda kutafuta, akaambiwa jamani, si wao ulipokea sufuria mdogo hiyo sufuria ndogo si ilizaa? Ndio. Kizaacho ufa. Jamaa alikosa sufuria yake. That's Abnuasi for you. That's a new term for some of our leadership today. You take our land, our money, build and sell that house to us. Can I tell you the truth? I don't know which account that money goes to. And we're saying we're living Raila's legacy. How I would want to pray that the blood of Raila Amolo Odinga's, that the pain of Raila Amolo Odinga, the blood that was shed to live in this country and give people equity and fairness and justice, surely, if it's to live on, we must live that legacy. And if we are surely believing this man here who's gone past, we must live his legacy. The Bible, the Christians will tell you, the preachers will tell you, every moment you commit sin, you put Jesus to cross. Every time you don't give people their rights and kill their children, deny them jobs, you actually putting Raila back to detention. And all of us have got a responsibility. We can't pretend we have a tall order. By the way, friends, those democratic fighters, the liberators, we're actually almost going back, negating all the gains we've got through the pain and loss. Today, actually stealing is normal. Jerry Yawa. Stealing is normal. That is your leadership. And I pray, I don't know where you belong, but sometimes I say in my mind, regardless of what you think about me, we are getting seriously impatient. And I told the IEBC, you have a responsibility not to light this country. The anger in the underbelly of Kenya is so hot that if there's a trigger like this, we will not have a country. But because of what we believe in, all of you seated here today, you have a responsibility. Surprise, surprise. We said we're going to give our young people jobs. The best we're doing is exporting them to slavery. And we say we want to be a first world country in a few years, when indeed you actually killing education, which is a natural equalizer. You are not industrializing. You have a dream to make Kenya a first world country, but you're doing a video on air flying that I have a dream. It is not your dream, it's a Kenyan dream. Am I talking to somebody? We must dream with you if you think you have a dream. And a leader who says, I have a dream, so the team leader, we better watch him. And I give him a red card. Please, if you care, those ones who are going to vote. This country must change. It will change. God bless you. God bless you.
I think Honorable Lomingo Magara would have been a bishop. Dini ya Msambwa. He knows how to speak well. Thank you very much. Has it not been wonderful? Has it not been? Imekuwa siku njema, si ndio? I apologize, I did not recognize Bwana Ndwiga from Wiper political party. Asante sana kwa kukuja. Thank you for coming for this wonderful event. Now allow me to close this meeting. There's a lot we can say about the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. The fact that he was the best storyteller I ever had. He always had a story for every occasion. And number two, he always knew each and every part of this country. You could not tell him you come from this point and he does not know a market or a school around that area. I found that fascinating for his age because I met him when he was 70s plus. So I found that very interesting. Allow us to close kindly. Let me welcome one of my colleagues in the board, Bwana Sadiq, to give a vote of thanks. Then tutamaliza na national anthem, and we can socialize outside while we take our tea. Asanteni sana. Thank you kwa kuja.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, so it's been a good day. Most of the powerful human rights stories are often described through the voices and cries and faces of victims, countless victims. But out of those tragic moments, great leaders arise, from Nelson Mandela and the anti-apartheid movement, that demonstrated the power of perseverance and reconciliation in achieving human rights and equality for millions. Mahatma Gandhi and the nonviolent civil disobedience that proved that fundamental human rights could be secured through moral strength and peaceful protest. Also to our very own Baba Raila Odinga, who's the son of our soil and father to many. His unrelenting passion aimed at making Kenya a better country and a giant in Africa. First of all, I want to thank Baba. I haven't met him personally, but we've all been inspired as young leaders coming up. And ultimately, all these powerful stories and great leaders have a common thread, and that is they have a conviction that either we are all free together or we are all not free together. And I used to see Baba all the time, on TV. People victimize him a lot, but then he'll always have the strength to look them in the face, forgive them, sit sit down with them, have a cup of coffee. And I always say I pray for that kind of character, where you can sit down with people who are against you, but then for the betterment of the country, you're able to move forward and build a nation. So with those few remarks, allow me to give special thanks to the board and the Secretariat of CMD, led by our very able chair, Honorable Kiraitu Murungi, and our ED, who also away on a trip, Mr. Frank Kwanja. CMD political party members and the leaders present, partner organizations like Uchaguzi Platform. Special thanks to Honorable Winnie Odinga for the appearance and also representing the Odinga family. Longtime friends of Baba, collaborators who are also present here. Our esteemed speakers who've been given the venue to, or rather the platform to speak to us about Baba and the amazing stories, so that we never forget what he stood for. Special thanks to the MC, Mr. Makoha, supported by my colleague, Honorable Frank Walukwe, the performing bands, Tamasha and the 5Cs, the media crew, and everyone who's present. Thank you very much. And let's not forget that fighting for human rights is not a preserve of Amnesty International or the Human Rights Commission. It's our duty, all of us. We see a lot of human rights issues around us every day. Domestic violence, marginalization, let's stand up for all those. Don't make it, don't wait for Amnesty International to write a report. Stand up and fight for that. So thank you very much. Karibuni chai, and we are very sorry for the delayed time. Santin. So we are closing with the national anthem. Who's going to pray? Okay. Madam Beth Siango, please come pray for us. Thank you.
Yes, we started with the national anthem. Thank you so much. But shall we pray? Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we want to thank you. You have been with us for several hours here, dear Lord, thinking and remembering a life of one of your servants, Raila Amolo Odinga. Father, we pray that his spirit will live on. Guide us, Lord. Let us be other Railas for this nation. God Almighty, to bring the transformation, the change that we desire to see in this nation. Bless each one of us, oh God, and guide us and lead us in each and everything that we do as human beings who are meant for your work, oh God. We thank you for each one of us. We bless you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We can now have the national anthem.
Kama wewe ungenipenda, yanini kunidanganya Bwana we, kujibandika madaraka siyo yako Bwana wewe. Kama wewe ungenipenda, yanini kunidanganya Bwana we, kujibandika madaraka siyo yako Bwana wewe. Nimesikia tetesi kuwa una lolote hata kazi unaye, unazurura mchana kutwa kushinda kurandaranda mitaani. Nimesikia tetesi kuwa una lolote hata kazi unaye, unazurura mchana kutwa kushinda kurandaranda mitaani. Kumbe ukuwa na uwezo wa kunio la kuniharibia maisha. Heri uniambie ukweli ulivyo kuliko kunidanganya. Nikuelewe vipi babu we, uaminifu wako uko wapi? baba karubandika wenge bwaza yo 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 wakukubali wito wako karubandika wakukubali wito wako karubandika haya tena matatizo ya dunia baba haya tena matatizo ya dunia baba nilitaka kujitumbukiza ndani ya moto mie nilitaka kujitumbukiza ndani ya moto mie kumbe bwana yule ana kitanda wala shuka pakulala analala kwenye stendi ya basi pakulala anakesha kwenye mamoli ya Nairobi karubandika yeye acha vituko we baba usinione bwege baba karubandika usinione bwege baba oyoyo wakukubali wito wako karubandika yeye wakukubali wito wako karubandika yeye haya tena matatizo ya dunia baba haya tena matatizo ya dunia baba akiingia kwenye basi yake kuomba pia akiingia kwenye basi yake kuomba pia ana hata aibu sigara pia anaomba ana hata aibu mademu watu pia anagusa